I could turn the lights back
Sure.
on.
Woo! You look like Bono.
Right? They make a huge difference though. Like today, oh, because it wasn't
Wonderful.
bright enough to quite pull off my sunglasses.
Yeah.
The only thing is it's
Okay.
weird is what it does to windshields.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're looking at somebody else's windshield, it makes it all like wonky weird. It's really cool. Anyway,
Okay. All right, let's start. Hi there.
I'm still here.
Hi there. Welcome to my Other's Keeper. We have my friend Sam here with us again, and we're going to talk again about her diabetic journey, but this time we're going to talk about some of the more serious side effects she's had. She's had several, okay, more than just several surgeries, a lot of medical complications, but two of the largest complications and surgeries she has had is an amputation of the lower half of one of her legs and a transplant of her pancreas and kidney. So, hi, Sam. Glad you're here. Thank you.
Hi. It's
So,
not
why don't
fun.
you get us started? Tell us a little bit. Let's backtrack a little bit and tell us a little bit about the history of your diabetic journey. So, how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was diagnosed at 3.5 as
Mm-hmm.
a type 1 diabetic, or at that time, a juvie diabetic,
Yeah.
because it was at that point, it was juvenile and adult onset. But
Yeah.
yeah, type 1. And it wasn't a huge change for our family because my dad was a type 1 diabetic as well.
Mm-hmm.
He had been diagnosed at age 10.
Oh.
So he was kind of, I'd watch him go through things to know kind of some of the things I was heading towards. So that made it worse and
Mm.
better in some ways.
So at least you knew
Um,
what to expect to a degree.
to a degree. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Because
So that made
everybody's a
many
little
things as
different.
they said, we're going to do this. Me going, no, no, I don't want to do that because I know that stays, that continues. I don't want to go there. And they're like, we need to do
Ooh.
that.
Yeah,
No,
so, like, what
no.
was an example of that?
A big example was one of the times I was in the hospital. I was having a lot of problems with breathing, and my lungs were like filling up with fluid, and I was filling up with fluid. And
Oh,
they're like, "We're
no.
gonna have to put you on dialysis." And I was like, "No, no, because I'm gonna be going to dialysis forever then." And they're like, "No, this is not that time. It's okay. This is just gonna be till we get that fluid off, and you beat whatever's kicking your butt right now, and we get the fluid off." So I actually only ended up being on dialysis for like, I think it was like 2 weeks if I remember right. So
But you
I was
did
impressed
eventually get back
at
onto
that point.
dialysis.
Yes, at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah. So when was it that you went on to dialysis full time?
Um, Dialysis would have been probably about 10 to 12 years ago, roughly.
Okay.
I don't know. Funny, I should have that on my little sheet, but I don't actually have that one on my sheet. But yeah, I think I was on dialysis for about 5 years, so it would have been about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So,
Alright.
and that was, actually, it would have been in around the 2014-ish range. Yeah, because I started dialysis while I was dealing with my leg.
Ah, so, okay, let's talk about your leg.
So
What was the start of the problem with
the
your leg?
the start of the journey,
Yep,
to begin with, I already had nerve damage in both legs.
yep.
My nerve damage went up about 3/4 of the way up my calf, and I had from that drop foot on both feet. So what
What
that
does
means
that mean?
is,
Foot.
so
Yeah,
instead of your foot being like this, and you can pick up your toes, and you can stand on your toes, and you can stand on your heel, my foot wanted to do this. It just wanted to hang. So
mm.
I would trip and fall on my own toes, literally on a plain, straight, dry, ordinary floor. So
Right,
that's
so
when
how
I
was
got,
it that you found that out?
so I found that out, interesting enough, when I was taking martial arts. And we were running sprint laps, and I fell on the floor, hands, knees, and chin into the rug. Most wicked road rash I've ever had in my life.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Not
yeah.
pleasant. Not
No.
pleasant. And then we were doing grapevines, which is where you go like step forward and then the other foot steps back and then you go step backwards and kind of alternate around. And I was
Right.
tripping on myself. And 3 or 4 days before, I'd been able to do it back and forth across the room with no problems.
Mhm.
And so our teacher, sensei, whatever, master, whatever, Haven,
Mhm.
who had a lot of physical training and stuff, said, he's like, can you stand on your heel for me? And I'm like, of course I can. And yeah, then I couldn't because the rest of my foot would just
Mm.
flop down. And he's like, how about standing up on the balls of your feet? And I'm like, yeah, no, I couldn't do that either. Because
Wow.
I'd try to stand on the ball of my foot would just go down. He's like, I think you have nerve damage. I think you have drop foot. And he's like, you need to go see your doctor about that. So
Right.
off to the doctor and I dropped foot. So that's when I got to have, see if I can back up enough, these lovely devices.
Oh boy, yeah.
And I got one of those for each leg and it goes up to just below your knee.
Mhm.
And basically it keeps it, as you can see by the foot, it keeps
Mhm.
your foot level so you're not tripping on it.
Right.
It's now got extra padding and stuff for other fun things that came along later, but that's the idea of what this is for.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah,
So now that you've got nerve damage, what was the next thing that happened that was
so
traumatic for your feet?
because I can't feel, actually the next thing was a different foot injury than the
Oh.
amputation story. Um I just got a I got like a wound on the side of my foot that they think it was like a osteomyelitis, like just like an infection inside, and it went into the bone and stuff. And I went through a whole bunch of surgical debridements and a couple skin grafts and months and months and months of hanging out in the hospital, having fun with all that.
Yeah.
No, no, that sucked.
Okay.
That
So
sucked. And at that point, for the debridement surgeries, they, because it was into my bone, they were sending. I was staying at St. Paul's,
mhm.
but they were sending me over to RUH every day for the surgeries.
Right.
And the first few days, they'd stop me eating at supper. And then I'd go over because I was on the call list and I'd head over at
Mm.
7 o'clock in the morning to RUH, sit there all day in a giant room by myself,
And hope you had surgery.
hope I had surgery. And then at 6 o'clock, they'd be like, nope, there was no room. A couple accidents came in. So we'll just send you home and we'll try again tomorrow. And of course, at 6 o'clock, you've already missed supper.
Yeah.
So the
And
ambulance takes
lunch.
me back, and like the nurses were gracious enough to kind of stash some stuff for me in the fridge and then heat it up for me because they're like they said, yeah, this happens all the time. So we always try to keep a supper tray at least.
Nice.
So I think that went for about 4 or 5 days in a row like that, where I basically had supper and then nothing until the next supper. And then when they
Hmm.
finally got to my leg, they're like, you needed to come sooner.
I tried.
So yeah. So then
Oh my
they
word.
did, I can't remember if it was 5 or 6. I think it was 5, and they did them like every 2 days basically to try to get down far enough.
Wow.
And at one point, I came out of the anesthetic and I'm like, "Oh my god, what happened to my leg?" Because it looked pitch black on the side. That was my first experience with a vac dressing. The black was just a silver coated chunk of foam.
Oh,
But it
okay.
literally, and it like it vacuums into your leg, so it looks like the size of your normal leg, but it's filling in the hole they've cut out, basically. So yeah, that was
Wow.
fun.
Okay. I
Back
have never
dressings
had
are cool.
experience with that.
Vac dressings are very cool, and they do an amazing job. VAC stands actually for vacuum assisted closure. So what it
Not just vac as in
is
vacuum.
no, well, kind of, but that's
Right.
V part is vacuum.
Right.
Um, And what it does basically is they put in this piece of foam, and not necessarily for everybody, but for diabetics, they always use the silver coated foam. And they put a piece in that covers your wound. And then
Mhm.
it's hooked to a tube. And then they put all this draping that's kind of like similar to saran wrap, but it
Mm.
sticks to your leg. And then when they turn the vac on, it all sucks in against the wound. And
And
because
what's
it's
with the silver?
constantly, the silver is to help with healing. It's kind of like an antibiotic.
Right.
So it's
Okay.
very cool. And
Yes.
because of that it helps it close faster, like your wound, like it'll literally
Mm,
kind of pulls it closed. And
okay.
if it's like got any seepage or any gross things coming out of it, it sucks that out too. So
It would
you
go
don't
into the
have
foam.
yucky stuff sitting in your wound.
Right.
So it's
Oh,
a
that
very
sounds
cool
good.
invention. Whoever invented that, two
2
thumbs up.
thumbs up.
Two thumbs up.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah.
Okay.
So that was yeah, and I remember at one point my mom going, "Wow, that looks like a ham hock, your ankle." I'm like, "Cool, thanks, mom." It did. It looked
Appreciate it.
really disgusting. There was staples and all kinds of gross things in there for a while. It was
Is
yucky.
that the ankle you still have?
Yeah,
Okay.
it
So
looks
let's go
very
down the
weird.
journey of how you got rid of one of your feet.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I mean, it's really funny because like my leg is very miscolored because
Mm,
of like pigmentation damage and weird stuff like that. And I still have a brutal scar on that leg, but I
mhm.
have that leg, so I don't care.
That's right. And it's mostly functional.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the nerve damage is slowly repairing itself because I'm getting a little bit farther down that leg where I have feeling now. So that
Nice.
can happen, but it's just a really ridiculously slow procedure.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, then we move on to the next thing. So in 2014, I went on a holiday to the States with my boyfriend at the time because his mom and two kids are in the States. And they live in between like his grandparents are in Virginia and his mom and his kids are in North Carolina, which sounds like it's 3 states away and sounds like it's a long way, but literally the drive between his grandparents where we're staying and the kids was like driving to PA and back.
Oh, so like an hour and a half.
Yeah, literally.
Oh, wow.
And we're
Okay.
doing 3 states to do that. So it's like, yeah, okay. So we were
Okay.
spending a lot of days in the weather down there, which at the time it was the summer and
Mhm.
it was averaging about 42 degrees Celsius, which
Oh,
is
wow.
I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's
I
hot.
don't either, but it's hot.
I think
Yeah,
it's
it's like
somewhere in the
100 or so
100.
degrees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm I don't know. It's hot. It's hot.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, we were obviously spending a lot of time in the pool. And
Yeah.
all of it's very weird because like we have what, two do we have three now outdoor pools in Saskatoon? We've got
I know we have at least
Riversdale,
3.
Riversdale,
Yep.
Mayfair, and the one on Taylor, which I can never think of its name.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's it. I think it's just the three.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's also the one off Grosvenor.
There's one off Grosvenor?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of hidden. That's the one that they built for Sutherland because Sutherland was getting a pool.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, not close at all. Anyway,
Nowhere near.
but there they have like outdoor public pools everywhere because it's hot all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, let's go to the pool today. Well, which one do you want to go to? I don't know. What's close? Well, within like 2 blocks, there's one in 4 directions. Oh, oh, okay.
Do you feel like north, east, west, or south today?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I've never lived here. Leave me alone. People who lived
Yeah.
here, you tell me. Because I mean, my boyfriend at the time actually had lived with his grandparents for quite a few years, so he knew the area really
Mm.
well.
Mhm.
Anyway, so every day we pack a bag for the kids and take my water shoes and off we'd go and have fun and try not to get burnt to a crisp and it's all good. I understand why people in the States they talk about the moseying. It's because it's too damn hot to move fast. I've decided that is the reason that is a word.
That's the reason for the mosey. All
Because you
right.
just
All
kind
right.
of saunter along, because otherwise you're just dripping. It's gross.
Or gallivant. What about gallivanting? Is that
Yeah.
anything?
That
Probably
wouldn't
not
be
in that
there.
area of town.
No, no, everybody
No.
just kinda
Moseyed.
like they've got all the time in the world. And I
All
mean,
right.
it can't be the whole state can't have all the time in the world. It's just not possible.
No. No, not at all.
So that is what we were doing on a daily basis, was basically hanging out with his grandparents, playing games in the park, going to a
Mhm.
pool. That was kinda every day. We went and bought Nerf guns and the three of us ganged up against the boyfriend and had blast because they wanted to attack dad, and
Nice.
so I
Yeah.
became the weapon reloader. That was my job. They'd collect
Okay.
the foam bullets and hand them to me, and I'd reload the guns and give them to because I was getting too tired to run around.
Mhm.
Because I
Yep.
already had the problems with both feet, and
Exactly.
walking got tiring.
For sure.
So yeah, so one day his mom took us to Carowinds Park, which is this crazy huge amusement park that is literally roller coasters and water things. So there's water slides, there's like a lazy river, there's like wave pools outside, like it was crazy.
Yep.
And I was feeling a little sick that day. I think it was just too much heat.
Mm.
And I was like, no, I don't want to go. And I got told, no, you're going. Mom bought your ticket and they're $50 a piece. I'm like, oh,
I'm going.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
for a
suck it
day.
up.
Yeah. And that doesn't include food. That doesn't include drinks. That's just to get in the
That's as
door.
good as Disneyland right there.
Yeah, pretty much, except
Yeah.
for way less to do. And I
Yeah.
mean, stairs sucked already because of the nerve damage. So I didn't want to do any of the roller coasters because you got
Mhm.
to climb upstairs to all of them because it was a flat piece of land. So yeah, I was climb up the
Mm.
stand to the roller. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, I'm all about the water stuff. Ooh, let's do it. So at which point the youngest at one point asked if, who was about like 10 at the time, asked if we could go on the river and if I'd go with her. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm like, how far is it? Just over the hill. I'm like, okay, that's not so bad. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave my shoes and braces here because I clearly can't get on a water tube and go on this river thing wearing my running shoes and my braces, not knowing
Mhm.
that there's actually a place for you to leave your shoes and things. And then you can go around the ride and it comes back to where you started.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And because I was getting everything packed for the kids for that day, I forgot my water shoes.
Oops.
Remembered everybody else's stuff and water blocked. I forgot mine. Yeah. So I was like looking around and I'm watching everyone and it's well, okay, nobody's looking like the ground's too hot or anything. And I asked boyfriend, I said, like, is the ground hot? And he's like, no, it's fine. And I'm watching, like nobody's doing the like skip across the hot pavement thing. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll just
Yeah.
leave my stuff here and we'll walk. Okay, well, it wasn't just over the hill. It was over the hill, over the hill, over the hill. It was probably about a 2 block walk at least. And because I don't have my braces, I'm doing the weird walk where I'm like stepping up from my hip to step over so I don't trip on my toes in each step, hanging
Mhm.
on to his arm for dear life.
Mhm.
So we get over there and I'm like, I can't walk back. I just can't. So he's like, okay, well, we'll leave you in the wave pool right here and we'll go get everything and move it over because there's a few tables empty over here now. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was fun. And the end of that day was this weird siren going off and I'm looking around and everybody is panicking and shoving their stuff in their bags as fast as they can. And I'm like, I'm going to start doing that too. And I'm like, what's going on? And the answer was, that's the hurricane warning. Grab your stuff. We're going. And I'm like, can I run fast enough for this? If you can't, I will carry you. I'm like, okay. So by
Wow.
the time
Yeah.
we got from where we were in the park to where our car was in the parking lot, I'm just going to say, thank God I have a high sitting SUV because the water was already knee deep.
Oh my word. I didn't know
Yeah.
this part of the story.
Yeah. It was pretty frightening, actually. I was like, we're going to die.
Yeah.
Like, it was like torrential downpouring. Like, it was
Oh
just
my
crazy.
word.
So, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Um, and we got out of there and everybody was fine. In fact, as
Mhm.
far as I know, I think everybody there was fine. It is actually neat. The entrance to the park, there's a street sign and it's got like a sign pointing, there we go, each direction. And one side of it is North Carolina and one side South Carolina. So the park is literally split down the middle on the border. So that was cool. I have a picture of us standing at that sign.
Neat.
But yeah, so everything seemed fine. We got home. We missed the hurricane. All good for the day, right? The next day I was not feeling so good, like way not good, like not heat exhaustion, not good, but not good. And
Hmm.
I had had a couple foot injuries when we went, so I had been like bandaging my feet and stuff in between going to the pool and stuff. So I pulled out, pulled my feet out in my little bucket of first aid stuff to work on my feet. And I looked down
Mm-hmm.
and went, oh, this looks bad. Because the bottoms of both my feet were like giant blisters and like charred,
Charred. Like black?
charred, like black.
Oh, oh,
So,
Sam.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, that's probably not good.
No.
So as I'm feeling crappier and crappier over the next couple days, I'm like, I think I need to go and get this checked at a hospital. And all I'm hearing from the other member of the car is, we can't afford that. I'm like, remember when I talked us into travel insurance and you said there was no point, and I said that $100 each is worth it? I'm going to prove it.
That's right.
So
That
yeah,
$100 probably saved your life.
$7,500 later for 10 hours at the hospital.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for
Um,
Canada Health programs.
right.
Holy
So,
moly.
and thank goodness that there was health insurance that with my medical history would cover me having travel
Mm,
insurance, because
mm-hmm.
that's another challenge in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a diabetic, most travel insurance says, good luck. Nope.
Wow.
So at the time I got mine through CAA, and they said, well, as long as you're stable and nothing changes and they're not
Yeah.
investigating something being wrong or something in the month before you leave, it's all fine. And
Yeah.
of course, like 4 days before we leave, my nephrologist is like, we need you to go do your regular blood work. And I'm like, can we wait till I come back to do that? She's like, come back from where? I'm like, going to the state. She's like, oh, travel insurance. Yes, we can wait.
Good.
She's like,
How long
not
were you
that
gone for?
important. Do it
How
when
long
you
were you
come
gone
home.
for?
Yeah.
How
So
long were you
yeah,
gone?
how long?
Yeah.
We were gone 3 weeks.
Mm,
Well, we were
mm-hmm.
supposed to be gone 3 weeks. We were not gone 3 weeks, or at least half of the we were not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after my lovely trip to the hospital and my doctor in the emergency there having like heart attacks and conniption fits because he's like, you're going into kidney failure. I'm like, no, I'm not. I know my creatinine level's high. I'm being monitored. I have a nephrologist at home. It's all good. And he's like, nope, nope. And I was like, no, it's fine. I saw her just before I left. He's like, well, what are your numbers? And of course, not thinking about metric imperial, said, hey, as long as it's 300, we're good. And he's like, 300? Anything over 2.5 is bad.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
like yeah, when you test your blood in Canada, it's like, "Oh, I'm at a level I'm at, 4." 4? You should be at least a 350. Like,
yeah, yeah.
no.
We
It's just the
used to do it
units.
that way, by the way. When I was a kid, blood sugars were tested like they are in the States.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was like, I will give you her number and her name. You can phone her and find out what normal is. And they were just,
Yeah.
it was panic. So then they were like, okay, you have two options. We can send you a state east for, I can't remember which direction was which, but one state one way was the burn center, and one state the other way was the kidney center. And I
Mm.
said, tell you what, why don't I just head home where I can do it all in one building for
That's right.
free? For
Yes,
free.
exactly. Yeah.
So, here is my favorite part of, clearly he didn't know much about kidney damage, because he said, I want you to fly home and I want you to drink lots of water on your trip, and, lots and lots of water, stay hydrated. And I'm sitting there going, sure, yeah, just let me out of here. Because knowing in my head, yeah, kidney damage, that's the last thing. I was on a fluid restriction.
So just watch,
And
he would have put you on a saline drip and just tried to run everything through you.
oh, they
He'd have
tried to do
killed
that and
you.
I refused. They tried to do
Oh.
that and I refused. But because you have to pay for anything, they really listen to you when you refuse stuff.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, drink lots of water. I'm like, yeah, you bet. I will take my water bottle with me. Yeah, I did not take a water bottle with me. So
Oh my
because
goodness.
of how our
Okay.
plans were,
Mhm.
the next morning, uh we were supposed to be going from North Carolina up to Pennsylvania because my boyfriend was the best man in a wedding the
Mm.
next day.
Mhm.
So he literally dropped me off at the airport because I looked on my phone and yeah, there's 3 connecting flights to Toronto. I could get home. So he dropped me off and said, "See you at home. Bye." And I got to the airport and there was still like from when we got there were 3 flights. And when I went up to the counter, they said, "Oh no, we've canceled all flights out for the rest of the night.
Why?
We didn't have enough people."
Oh, no way.
And I'm like, "Cool. Is the airport open overnight?" They're like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "So it's okay if I just sit on a bench and wait till tomorrow?" And they're like, "Yeah." They said, "Guaranteed the first flight that's going to Toronto will go because we've got a whole class that's flying up." I'm like, "Awesome." And they said, "Oh, well, actually, they're not going to Toronto. They're going on a different flight, but there's one that's already pretty much booked except for about 2 seats. You'll be good." I'm like, "Okay, cool."
As long as you get one of the 2 seats,
Yeah.
right?
So I literally have my little like carry-on bag with me in my purse. That's it. And that's when I realized I had left all of my meds with John in the car.
Oh, no.
So all I had was my insulin with me. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna suck. I had a granola bar in my purse. And I'm like, I am so damn hungry because
Mhm.
literally I haven't eaten anything since the night before we went to the hospital.
Oh my.
Yeah, I found out the next day that there's actually McDonald's on the upper level of the airport. I was a little choked at that.
Yeah.
So yeah, hung out for the night at the airport and talked lots to the caretaker people as they were cleaning and driving their little Zambonis around and stuff. And it was great because I was supposed to be trying to keep my feet up, but all of their seats were like seats with armrests in between them.
Oh, yeah.
So you couldn't really keep your feet up anyway without, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that was
Were you
fun.
able to
So
get into a wheelchair or anything like that?
no, no. So
Oh,
I'm
no.
literally sitting on the bench with my legs wrapped up like mummies, jammed into my braces, and my legs are like mushrooming out of my braces. They're swelling up out of the braces. And I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be fun. When I take those off, they're not going back on.
No.
So
It's
yeah,
just gonna
then there was
go
a whole yeah, then there was a whole gong show in the morning. Actually, it was really nice because the caretaker came over and he's like, "Just letting you know it's 6 o'clock. You should go get in line now." I'm like, "I thought they said they start selling tickets at 7." And he's like, "Just trust me, go get in line now." I'm like, "Okay." Yeah, then there was the whole schmozzle of international
Mhm.
airport that doesn't actually know how to sell tickets. So that was a fun adventure that involved an $80
Which
cab
airport was this?
ride.
Just to give them a
And
little shout out here.
uh, that was uh, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Don't
Yeah,
go through
and it's like
Harrisburg,
a
Pennsylvania
huge
if you have a
airport.
medical issue.
Yeah, like huge airport, huge airport. But yeah, apparently they don't sell tickets there. You have to buy them online. I don't have a credit card. Can't buy one online. Sorry. Because that was before Canada had Visa debit. The States did. We didn't.
Right. Yes.
So, um, the one gentleman that I talked to, he said, "Okay, well, you can do this." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't have a Visa." And he's like, "I guess just go get yourself one of those Visa debits." And he said, "I can look up to see how much it's going to be and let you know." I'm like, "That would be great." Yeah, they don't make Visa debits that cover $700.
So did you
They
have
go
to
up
get like
to
2 or 3?
they go up to 5. But they do have ones that you can register and then load higher, but you have to wait till
Okay.
the mail comes for it. I'm like, "Well, I'm hoping I'm not here that long."
No doubt.
Yeah, that was great fun.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the best I could do was just load 2, and after us going to 2 or 3 different stores trying to find one that maybe went high enough, we get back and, the cab driver's like, "So that's $80." And I'm like, "Crap, I didn't take out enough for that." And he's like, "What do you got
Yeah.
on you?" And I said, "I have 50 US and 50 Canadian." He's like, "How about you give me the 50 Canadian?" I'm like, "I'm good with that."
What a
And he's
sweetheart.
like, "You had
Yay.
a horrible day." And I'm not even gonna get into the story about like trying to find the cabs at the airport, and me just about wanting to just collapse in the middle of the parkade and
Oh, for
cry.
sure.
And that this
Oh.
still to this day is my shittiest birthday ever because that was my birthday.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So
Oh, no.
so we finally get me booked through many more phone calls to Air Canada because you can only use one payment source on their website. Thanks, guys. Um, so the gentleman that I started talking to went through all this with me, and they ended up having to, Air Canada had to walk them through how to sell a ticket. So their entire front staff was all huddled around this one computer with the speakerphone on, learning how to do this. And it was like this big grand moment of cheering when Clarence says, "I sold a ticket."
That's
So
pathetic.
yeah,
Oh, my goodness.
it
Oh,
was fun. It was
wow.
fun. It was a great adventure. So I got my ticket, which was an assisted flight, which means they're supposed to take you to the gate and help you onto the plane. Yeah, well, they brought down a wheelchair and wheeled me to the elevator to go up, which is when I found out there was a McDonald's up on the upper level. And I was just like,
Yeah.
then
Happy
they
birthday.
get to then they get to the gate and they're like, okay, well, this is as far as we can take you. Now you have to go down the stairs and walk out to the tarmac to the plane. Because it was only a little like 20-seater plane that was going
Oh,
to
my
Toronto.
goodness.
And I'm like, cool, because stairs suck. And now I have to climb upstairs with those little rubber bungee cord rails. Oh, God.
Oh.
So I
It's
got on
hard
the
enough with
plane.
solid rails. It's hard enough with solid rails.
Yeah.
I cannot
I will
imagine.
say stairs were easier at that point still than they are
Right.
now, but
Right.
they still weren't my friend. So then I managed to get on the plane and I looked around and this is my seat and I sat down and this guy gets on. He's like, I think you're sitting in my seat. And I'm like, so I start collecting my stuff together because you know what? Never mind. What seat do you have on your ticket? I'll just sit in it. I'm like, thank you so much. Thank you. And I started bawling. I was just like, I'm so done with this day.
Oh,
Yeah, so
honey.
that was fun. So then I get to Toronto and thank you, assisted flight of Toronto. I get off the plane. Again, we're out in the middle of the flippin' tarmac. And by the time I manage to like slowly creep my way to the front and get off, there's our rack of luggage sitting there and nobody in sight. And the terminal is probably about the equivalent of about 5 blocks away. And I'm like, cool. So I pick up my bag and I start limping my way into the airport. And you know the
Mhm.
little people that are doing the waving with the light things?
Yep.
One of them comes running over and goes, "What are you doing out here?" Because I'm walking across runways. Like, safety factor, not good. And I said, "Well, I'm supposed to be an assisted flight." And they left you out here? I'm like, yeah, yeah. So
Welcome to Air Canada. Oh, my
she's like,
goodness.
stay right where you are. I'll be right back with a wheelchair. So she went and grabbed a wheelchair and she took me in and said, okay, I'm going to leave you here because I got to get back out and do my job, but somebody will be here in about 2 minutes to pick you up and take you the rest of the way through stuff. So then we went through customs, like handing in the customs forms and stuff.
Right.
And it's as I'm trying to fill that out, I realize that's what I realized. I left all my meds with John in the car and I have the letter that goes with my meds with me. And I'm like, good luck at the border on your way home, John.
Mhm.
So it turned out he was okay.
Oh,
The
good.
the
Okay.
the
He didn't
the,
have to
the
throw everything out?
no, the people at the border were really awesome. He literally said my girlfriend had to fly home as an emergency from the hospital to the hospital at home. I have her meds. She has the letter covering her meds. And the guy's like, don't worry about it. I think I
Oh,
also there we go.
there we
Because
go.
I think
You're
I
back.
also have a few things she bought. We didn't spend a lot though. It's probably a couple t-shirts and stuff. And the guy's like, I don't care. Just go.
Oh, that was so
So yeah,
nice.
it was that part was good. So get to Toronto. For anybody who's disabled, going through security sucks. Sucks.
Actually,
I
there's a
mean,
guy right now who, got absolutely 0 help. The flight attendants on his Air Canada flight wouldn't even help him out of his seat,
yeah.
and he's now
Well,
suing.
my
So
my big problem was trying to get through like the actual like where they do the scans and all that
yeah,
crazy stuff.
yeah,
So okay, my braces, as we saw,
mhm,
I'll turn it this way, has like metal bits and
yeah,
buckles
yeah,
at all the places where there's straps. I'm wearing those on both legs. I have a metal cane. So, of course, I set off the metal detector. And I
mhm,
literally said, it's my belt buckle, it's my braces,
yeah,
and they're like, okay, well, we're going to have to do the wand. I'm like, that's fine. But then they're like, we need you to undo your pants. I'm like, excuse me? And they're like, undo your pants. I'm like, why do I have to undo my pants? I'm telling you exactly where you're going to find the problems. So yeah, like they're like, we need you to take those braces off. I said, I can't. If I take them off, I will not get them back on. I am flying home with third-degree burns. I cannot do that. And they're like, you need to just stand here. I'm like, I can't stay standing here. Like, I can't. And then they took my cane and they gave me this stupid like plastic pole that like had no support to it. And they're just getting really ornery. And I'm trying to like defend myself and try to get out of having to stand there because I'm losing my balance. I'm worried I'm going to
for
pass out
sure.
because I'm hurting.
Ask
And
for a supervisor next time,
well,
like
thank God. Well, finally, like they shift changed in the middle of that. And this lady comes up and she's like one of the new staff. She's like, what's going on? And he goes, well, she's taken off her belt and we had her undo her pants. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I have braces on my legs that have metal in them from the knee down. And I've tried to explain this. They just need to scan my legs. That's where it's setting it off. And she's like, oh, for heaven's sakes. So she like scanned really quick. And of course, yeah, that's the only thing that's setting them off. It's like I've even pulled my pant legs up by this point, going, see the metal? See the metal. So yeah, finally, so then she walked me over to where the bench was that I had to wait for the little golf cart to come get me. And so then they golf carted me over to my gate and they took me to the gate and they said, okay, so when they're loading mothers and assisted flight, before they start loading the flight, that's when you'll go on. I'm like, cool. So then when they left, I said to the lady, I said, how long is it before I'll be boarding? She's like, you've got probably 45 minutes at least. I'm like, awesome. And I'm like, there's an A&W right there. It's the closest food thing. I can get food. 'Cause
yes.
I was starving to death.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So as I'm getting on the plane and getting ready to shut down my phone, which might I add, they left me to walk onto the plane by myself. But these lovely people came along and they said, can we help you somehow? And I'm like, you know what? At this point, I'm just going to walk slow and I'll be okay. They're like, okay, well, if you need help, just shout. So I have no idea where they were getting to go on because they didn't look like they needed
They
help.
probably
So I
had
don't
first
know.
class tickets.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe
Yeah.
like I don't know. It wasn't the biggest plane either because Toronto to
Yeah.
Saskatoon's not a big flight.
No.
But anyway, as I'm about to shut off my phone, I get a Facebook notification that my aunt and uncle are in the damn airport and on the very next flight. I'm like of all the odds when they live in Saudi Arabia for them to be in Toronto and on the very next flight, I'm like, oh, they could have helped me.
Yeah.
Oh crap.
Ay, ay, ay.
But yeah, so I talked to my mom, and that was when my mom was just learning how to text. She signed every text, or every text started with "This is mom," and everyone ended with "In case you forgot, this is mom." I'm like, it's like, Mom, you know how when I send you something, it has my name come up? She's like, yeah. I said, I programmed that. Don't you think I programmed that in my own phone?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so text me when you land, and I will come pick you up to take you to the hospital. So
Yeah,
I text her and tell her that I made it home and wandered my way through the airport, which was when it was in major construction.
I
So this
remember
is
that.
2014.
Yep.
And I get outside and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. It's been an hour and a half. We live in Saskatoon. It is like 20 minutes from my mom's to the airport. I'm like, at
Yeah, nothing takes
bad,
an hour and a half to get
at
there.
the worst. I like that's when
Yeah.
it's really bad. And it was like not a rush hour time. So I finally phoned my mom. And my mom's like, oh, hi, where are you? I'm like, I've been sitting at the airport for an hour and a half waiting for you. She's like, well, why didn't you call? I said, because you told me to text you. And she's like, oh, oh, well, would you like me to come get you? I said, yes, please. Oh, mom. So yeah, I by that point had already phoned and talked to the hospital and explained what was going on and phoned my doctors and
Yeah.
so that was 2014. That was my birthday, 2014.
Oh my goodness. I think we're gonna have to get to your transplants in the next one because there's still a lot to go with this one.
Yeah. So
So,
then so yeah, straight to the hospital and I mean they'd done a little bit of cleaning up the wounds in the States, obviously at the hospital, but they didn't really want to
mhm,
do too much because they're like, okay, diabetic, and you're going to be traveling, so they just kind of did what they could and wrapped it all up. So yeah, my legs were like ridiculously swollen by the time I got home. And they were this
they
cool
prob
mushroom shape because of, puffing out of my braces. Boy,
yeah, if
did
they
it.
would have poked you with a needle and then gone pop.
Yeah, if only it would have been that easy.
Yeah,
I wish.
wouldn't it have been
But
nice?
boy, did it feel nice to take those suckers off.
Mhm.
So yeah, then we did a whole bunch of like debriding, and which is basically they're cutting and scraping and pulling off dead tissue and what they could, and then they made me
Mhm.
some fancy shoes, which basically make it so you're kind of walking where it supports anywhere there isn't blisters so that there's
Oh,
no
wow.
weight on the blisters, and they have their little shoe they're big shoes that they're like Frankenstein shoes, but they can pluck out like pieces of them in little squares like grid paper so that they
Oh,
can take the pressure off of anywhere that needs to have the pressure taken off.
right. Oh, that's
Yeah,
brilliant.
they're very cool, and they just velcro on, and they're like they have sizes but they're huge, so
Yeah.
they fit various sizes, and yeah, so that was fun. So we went through that for a little while, and it was getting a little bit better, and then it get a little bit worse, and then it get a little bit better, and then it get a little bit worse. And after not very long, they're like, "Okay, you just need to stay in the hospital." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I gotcha." Which I mean, that's probably in the hospital for 2 or 3 months as soon as I got home, like literally straight from the airport to the hospital. And I think I was
Wow.
in for about 3 months till they finally like let me go home. And home care was supposed to be helping with dressings and take care of it. And within a couple
Mhm.
days, they're like, "It's not looking good. Go back to the hospital." So we played that game for a while, where I'd be in the hospital for a few weeks, and then the doctor would be like, "Okay, home care, can you do this?" And they're like, "Yeah," and they'd send me home for a week, and then home care's like, "Nope, it's getting worse. Go back." And we do
Mhm.
another debridement round, and yeah,
Mhm.
lots of fun. And basically, for the duration of 3 years, I pretty much ended up living in the hospital because if I was home maximum of a week, and then I'd be in for 3 or 4 or 5. Um, one of
Right.
the final blows was one of the times when he sent me home because I was doing really, really good. My main wound was down to probably about the size of a quarter on my left foot. My right foot by this point is doing fine. It's fine. So
Mhm.
my main wound is down to about the size of a quarter. And my surgeon talked to home care and he said, "Okay, I need to have twice a day dressing changes every day. Can you guys accommodate that?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we can do that, no problem." And he's like, "We'll see." And yeah, they did that the first day. And then the second day they came the first time and then they said, "Okay, well, we can't get there. We'll come tomorrow." And then the next day they're like, "Oh, we can't come there. We'll do the second dressing time tomorrow." So yeah, they were skipping like 2 and 3 days at a time. And by the time they finally did come after one of those, they're like, "You need to go back to the hospital like now." And yeah, we had to do a surgical debridement then. I had to go into the OR, and I ended up with like this big of hole again because of how much it literally looked like they took an ice cream scoop to my heel.
Yes, yes, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, because they had to cut out all the tissue that had gone bad. Well, home care wasn't doing the dressing changes. Might I add, a lot of people were saying I needed to complain about that, and I didn't need to because my surgeon already had dealt with it. People were fired.
Good.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah. He was so
Yeah.
mad. He's like, she has been fighting so hard, and I have been working so hard to help her save this leg, and then you guys tell me you can do this, and you just blow it off.
Yep.
Like, so yeah, so we hit the probably about 2 3 year mark, 2 3 year mark, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Mhm.
And finally, Dr. Quinlog, who is you know what, our vascular surgeons in Saskatoon are all amazing. They are all awesome.
Wonderful.
And when you're in there that long, you deal with all of them. You really do. You deal with all because I mean, your surgeon takes a day off here and there, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I was under the care of my surgeon, Dr. Quinlog, and my nephrologist, Dr. Clausen, because of it was during all of that that I ended up having to start dialysis.
Can you remind
So
people what a nephrologist is?
a nephrologist is a kidney specialist. So because my kidneys were having a hard time or struggling, and I mean they weren't the greatest when I went on the holiday, but just this extra
Mhm.
taxing on the body was just too much.
For sure.
So so yeah, so I got to start dialysis in the middle of this too. So that was great fun. So that's 3 hours, or sorry, not 3 hours, 3 times a week, where basically from beginning to start of hook up to unhook, you're basically there for about 5 hours.
Wow.
So it's a giant chunk of your life. Um, I was very fortunate because I never, um, I didn't feel as terrible and gross as a lot of people do. Like a lot of
Mm.
people are nauseous and throwing up the whole time they're there, and
Oh, wow.
their blood pressures sink like rocks, so they feel like they're gonna pass out. And
For
like
sure.
it's like as my nephrologist told me, she said, though you might just be lying here trying to stay warm because they have to keep the ward cold because it helps to keep your blood from clotting in the machines.
Yeah.
And they have heated blankets. Thank God for heated blankets at the hospital. Um, it's you're still freezing. But she said, you may just be lying here physically, but because of what the machine is doing to cycle your blood and everything going through you, your body's running a marathon, even though you're just laying there.
Oh, I would never have
It
thought
does.
about
It like
that.
it increases your heart rate. It
For
like
sure.
does crazy things with your blood pressure and yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So for the most part, I mean, other than times that I was sick before I went into dialysis, usually did pretty good.
Oh,
So
good. I
I was
remember
pretty
visiting you in dialysis a few times,
yeah,
and
and
yeah,
it is
it was
cold in there, isn't it?
chilly.
It
It's
is
very
very
cold,
chilly. Yeah, it is
and
very
I'm
cold.
always
Yeah,
hot, so
yeah, it's cold. It's really,
yeah.
I mean, so am I usually. So it was always funny when they'd be like, "Do you need a blanket?" I'm like, "Nope," and they're like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Oh, I will in half an hour, but I'm good right now."
Save it.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun, but it got to the point where this surgeon, Dr. Quinlog, said, "Well, we've come to this point where you need to decide: do you want to live in the hospital forever, or do we amputate?" And he's like, "That's kind of where we're at." And he said, "You're young. I don't want you living in this building any longer. You've spent enough time here." He's like, "It's bad enough that like you have people come into the building and the staff can tell people like exactly where you are." Like one of my friends joked because she walked up to a maintenance or a housekeeper and said, "Do you happen to know where Samara is right now?" And literally he did. He's like, "Oh
You're
yeah, I saw
popular.
her. She was just heading toward the lounge on the fifth floor." And she's like, "Okay, thanks." And
Oh,
she was
wow.
at the front entrance. She wasn't on the floor. She was at the front entrance.
Wow.
So yeah, it's still kind of a joke with anybody who's been there like the longest.
Mm.
Like when I was at the hospital the last time and I was going for blood work, there was a brand new security guy, and he's like, "Oh, do you need directions to where you're going?" And the one who's been there for years kind of slaps him and goes, "Man, she knows where things are that you don't even know yet."
Yep.
So, but you know what? You find really cool little lounges and places to go hide and be quiet, and it's great. It's great.
Nice. Yeah, I
And
remember your
there's
games night people would come over
yeah,
and play games with you
yes,
in one of
yes.
the areas.
We'd go down to the cafeteria on Sunday afternoons at about 4:30. We'd head down, and then we'd play D&D or Pathfinder or something like that till like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
And we
Yeah.
were there enough that like security would be looking for somebody, and they'd come down and be like, "Hey, have you guys seen these people? Okay, well, give us a call if you see them, all right?"
Right. Yeah.
Which is it's ironic that one of those group of game people now actually does security for the hospital system. So, and every time he's over at St. Paul's, he like takes a picture of our table and goes, "Guess where I'm working today?" So yeah,
That's fun.
it is. But yeah, I decided at that point I was kind of sick of time going by and missing life, and it was time to make that call. And I told my
Mhm.
surgeon, "Yep, it's time." And I said, "Hey, on the good side, I one of my socks I won't have to change very often because it won't sweat that foot anymore." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Only you can
Yep.
come up with the positive, Sam. Only you." Like,
Absolutely.
could be worse.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, that
what
was
how long did it take from the injury of burning your foot until you finally had your amputation?
it was give me a second. It was probably about it was 2 years. It was about 2 years. Because
Okay.
my burns were in July of 2014 and my amputation was in September of 2016. But then
Mm.
there was like a year of basically learning things like healing the amputation first, then getting fitted for prosthetics, then going to rehab to learn how to walk with the prosthetic.
For sure.
So,
And
yeah,
healing from that surgery would have been complicated as well because of your diabetes.
yeah,
Wound healing is very difficult when you have severe diabetes.
it is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. And
Yeah.
it was really weird after the surgery too, because your brain is like sending all these signals and your nerves are like, "Ooh, yeah, da 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 da." And it's like, no, 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 that foot can't hurt. It's not there now. It's really
Mhm.
not there. And it was
Mhm.
weird feelings. Like after that surgery, they literally like put bed alarms on you and stuff, and they put gym mats all around your bed in case you try to get up and fall because
Because
they've
you
had a
forget
lot.
that you don't have a leg.
Yeah, yeah, and it happens
You don't
apparently
have
a lot. So
yeah. When they say you
and
don't have a leg to stand on, they mean it.
they
So,
really
yeah.
do. They really
Yeah.
do. But
Alright.
yeah, so and
Well,
we
it's
are
been almost
I
sorry?
was just gonna say we are incredibly lucky in Saskatchewan that we get our prosthetics covered and paid for.
Absolutely. Yep. I have another friend I'm going to be talking with as well who's had, a higher amputation. It was in mid-thigh or something like that. She had to have amputated for not for diabetes, but for a different reason. So I'd like to talk with her as well. So we will get her on the show as well. But for right now, it's been almost an hour, and I do have to go to another appointment. So thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
We will if there's any more information about this, um, we will cover it next time, and next time we talk to you about anything like this, it'll be about your transplant. So that is a big story as well. So
It
I am
is.
really looking forward to that one.
That is.
All right. Have an awesome evening, and
Yep,
thanks for
you too.
coffee this afternoon.
Yeah, as terrible as it turned out.
Yeah, well. All righty. I'll talk
Those
to
are
you
some
later.
bad drinks. Bad combination. Bye.
Bye-bye.